in spite of the fact that I have worked less, traveled less, been less stressed in 2024, I have more money to show for it than I did in 2023. And that is an affirmation of what this rebuild has been doing. It is showing me that oftentimes the chaos that we think is necessary for us to do the thing we need to do is actually not necessary, because in the peace is where the profit comes.
Creating a life that is authentic, bold, and purposeful takes audacity and truth telling. It takes disruption. That is what it means to be a professional troublemaker. Professional Troublemaker is a best-selling book, this podcast, and frankly, a life habit. And I'm your host, Luvvie Ajayi Jones. I'm here to bring you perspectives, deep dives, and conversations about culture, business, life, and leadership. And welcome to Season 5, which I'm really excited about. This season is dedicated to the glory and grit of entrepreneurship. 2023 was my toughest year as a business owner, and there was a point where I was 3 months away from being bankrupt. So let's talk about it. Let's get really real about running your own business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because while people love to glorify entrepreneurship, they often leave out the tough lessons, the failures, and the pivots that have had to happen. My hope after this series of episodes is that you feel more informed about what it truly takes to run a purpose-driven business. You feel less alone about all the times you messed up, and you walk away knowing what to avoid so you don't make some of the same mistakes I've made. Let's get into it.
So I keep trying to have a script for this episode, and I have struggled to write a script. I'ma just take this off the cuff. This season of Professional Troublemaker has been such a gift to me in so many ways that I didn't even necessarily expect. And I think when I started the season, I knew that my purpose and my job for this season of this podcast was to tell the truth of my crumbling, of my fallout, of my business, of myself, because I really wanted to make sure that people understood that no matter how big we might get publicly or whatever those things are, we are still human beings who are flawed, who still make mistakes, who still go through hell and back. And I really wanted to, I wanted to basically come from behind the curtains of it all to tell the truth. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've gotten with these episodes have been people being like, yo, you've made me feel so much better about what I went through, about my role in it, about what's happening right now. You've humanized it for me. And I'm like, that's what I wanted. That's what this mission has been. This rebuild episode has been a long time coming because I kept on pushing it back because I was like, I'm still in the middle of the rebuild. I'm still in the middle of the rebuild. And there's a little bit more that I want to be able to tell you about. And it was spot on. I'm so glad that I actually procrastinated on this rebuild episode because I have more to tell you about where I am and what's next in my business and really my approach in this next season of life and work. So, yeah, I was supposed to be writing a script and I kept on being like, I have a hard time writing a script. You know what? I feel like I'm going to be given the right words to tell y'all in this episode since I couldn't write them. So, you know what? Let's just talk. Let's talk about how I went from the crumbling and the fallout, what I'm doing now. Let's talk about how June 2023 saved my business, continues to save my business, and how what I started then really has far reaching consequences for the work that I'm doing moving forward. Okay. In the episode about the crumbling, I ended it with how I fired my last lead and ended up with one person, my Lone Ranger. That was June 2023. So, as the firing was happening, one thing that had sat on my chest, on my shoulders, was this assignment that I know I had been given to do. It was energizing to my spirit. It felt right. And one of the things that have brought me to where I am today and in my career in general is obeying the deep convictions that I get. So I've never really had a 5-year strategy, a 4-year strategy, 10-year strategy. I usually do what feels right, and it usually will lead me to the next thing. So all I have done is obey what feels right. What I felt deeply convicted about obeying in June 2023 was this mission that I have felt for years, but I could not get the right team to do it for me. And that was to help other people write successful books, write and market successful books. So here's the thing. At this point, I was down to one person who was working for me full time. That's it. And it was just me. Now, let me take you back to May 2023. All right. No, actually, let me give you some more context and I'm gonna walk you through this. So check it. My first book, I'm Judging You, The Do Better Manual, came out in September 2016. And I literally put that book on my back and activated every single type of marketing I knew how. I called in all the favors, all the ways in which I do not like to ask for help. I did because I said, look, I know how hard I had to fight to get this book deal. I know how it was not supposed to be a big book. I know how it was not taken as seriously as I knew it should have been. And I wanted to make sure that somebody else gets taken more seriously than I was. So I said, I need this book to do well because it will act as currency for somebody else who looks like me to be able to walk into a publishing house and get a proper deal and actually be handled with care. So I activated everything I knew. I worked on my ask wounds. I don't like to ask for help. And when the book came out, September 13th, 2016, it was already one of the most buzzy books of that fall. And then 8 days later, I found out that I hit the New York Times bestselling list. Like, I was an instant New York Times bestselling author, even though I only had one piece of national press. Okay. That book changed my life. It allowed me to retire my mom. It put me on the road and my speaking exploded. And after 3 months, the book started earning its advance back. Like, what? Okay, that big deal. Okay. That book is now sold over 100,000 copies and people still write, people are still reading it. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I'm Judging You really is my baby. It's so important to my journey. So then get this. On the third anniversary of I'm Judging You coming out, which is September 13th, 2019, I got my second book deal. And that was for a Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual, which, by the way, ended up being 10 times the advance I got for I'm Judging You, over 10 times, right? Where I'm Judging You was declined by 11 editors. Professional Troublemaker was bid on by 11 editors. All right. So Professional Troublemaker came out March 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. We were all inside. Odds again are stacked against me because how do you sell a book when nobody can go outside? Well, I put that on my back again, ran an incredible marketing campaign and launch plan that I built, 50-page strategy deck, and I did a 7-stop virtual tour. 7,000 tickets sold for that tour. By the first week that Professional Troublemaker came out, it had sold over 16,000 copies. That is major, and it hit the New York Times bestselling list at number 3 in the hardest category it could hit it at. Yo, it was proof that what I did with book 1 was not a fluke and that I know things. I know books. As a writer and a marketer, to be able to replicate that type of success shows that it shows that it's not just luck, right? And here's the thing, it's never luck. It's usually God's blessings. And beyond that, it's my expertise, my hard work, my innovative strategy, my ability to ask for help and ask for community help. And then in 2022, Rising Troublemaker came out, which was for teenagers. It was the teen version of Professional Troublemaker. That hit the New York Times bestselling list. And then Little Troublemaker for the babies, okay, comes out in 2023. And you already know the winning vibes. And that hit the New York Times bestselling list May 2023 instantly. And that one was the hardest because I was doing all of that while also feeling like I was in the middle of a chaos tornado. Like that one almost took me out. And here's the thing, my friends had been hearing me talk about my desire, my dream, and my assignment to help people publish their books for a couple of years. When Little Troublemaker hit the list, they were like, so where's this publishing course? So remember when I said I was at a conference called Accelerate Her in May 2023? That's where I was at when I got the call that Little Troublemaker had hit the Times list. That's where I was at. in this group of powerful Black women. I was sitting in a session and I see my phone ring and I jump out the session. And what's interesting is the day before then, I'd actually taught a book publishing 101 session at the conference. It was supposed to be an hour-long session, but it ended up being 3 hours because people were calling it the book revival. Like, my session had about 30 people in it. I go in there, I do the session, and folks was like, "Oh, this is a book revival." And they started circulating a sheet of paper with their names on it that says Luvvie's first students written on it. They put their emails, their numbers, and they told me that when I officially launched my paid book publishing course, they'd be my first students. Mind you, the 30 people in this room, powerhouse women, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mignon Moore, Gia Peppers. Like, they weren't just women who would say that just to say it, they meant it. And word of the book revival got around the conference, and people were like, "Yo, when are you doing your publishing course?" And I was like, "I will do it." I was so touched because it happened to be 3 hours because I was in my bag. I was in my energy. I was in my assignment, and it felt so good. It was such a safe space full of vulnerability, and people admitted to me about all the ways they'd been doubting their story or their ability to write a book, or that they didn't know if anyone would care. Child, we basically had a workshop, a therapy session, and a prayer session because it ended up in prayer. It was everything. So, we've all heard of, like, triggers, right? The things that can pick at your traumas. Well, there are also glimmers, which are the opposite. They're the moments of hope that we need to pay attention to. They're the moments of light that are telling us, listen, pay attention here and follow that. It was a giant glimmer. It was a massive glimmer. In fact, the whole conference was. And shout out to my girl Kim Blackwell for Accelerate Her. It helped lift me up at a time when I was dragging because remember at this moment I was also firing people in real time. So a few of my friends who weren't even in that book revival session were like, "We're about to bug the heck out of you because until you do this, you wasting time." Like, who else but you? If not you, then who? They were like, "Who else has the right credential to teach a class on how people can become successfully published authors?" Right? You have 4 New York Times bestsellers in 4 different categories. One of my friends even threatened to pull up at my house and beat me up. And she only lives a few blocks from me. So I was like, I believe she will do it. And she's small and feral. So I believed her. And they were basically like, we need you to do this book publishing course. One of my friends, I was on a call with her, and she literally was like, I just sent you $500. You have my money now. So now you have to do it. When I tell you, it was like God was sending many people to be like, "Move. I know things are rough, but I need you to move." So what happened? So after I fired my last person, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna put everything else on hold for the summertime, and Imma go deep on this." So I bought the URL, thebookacademy.com. I created a free guide about 5 mistakes people make when they try to write and publish books. And I offered the free guide online, and 3,000 people signed up for the free guide. 3,000 people instantly signed up for the free guide. So then those people I started sending emails to, giving them value about books, like letting them know, like, you can absolutely do this. It is time to write that book that's been sitting in your spirit. You have an assignment just like I do. My assignment is to help you make yours come true. So over 10 days, I was sending emails to people. And then on the 10th day, I announced that the Book Academy is now open, a 6-session academy to teach you everything from how a book goes from idea to being on publishing shelves to how you're going to market it when you finally write it. 6 sessions, 497, and they would be live with me, and they'd have access to the information even afterwards. They would get workbooks, they would get these deep instructive sessions, and after each session they would be clearer on what they would need to do. Y'all, when I sent that email out to 3,000 people, in 4 days 120 people signed up for this. And by the time we closed cart after 10 days, we had 270 students signed up for the first cohort of the Book Academy. My goal was 100. I said, let me just try to get 100. That'd be amazing. And I got almost triple, and I didn't even use social media for it. It was just an email. And it blew me away. And it was like at a moment where so many things had gone wrong, God was like, I'm going to show you that I got your back. That, like, when you are obeying what I want you to do, you will win. Let me show you how easy you will win too. Yo, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. Remember, just 3 months before, I was looking at, oh snap, I might end up at $0 for my company. And I do a quick launch of the Book Academy and instantly make $200,000. It was a glimmer, like a divine glimmer. And I was so excited because here's the thing, even less about the money, knowing that I was going to be impacting people in this way, and this thing that had been sitting on my shoulders for years that a team of 6 people could not get done for me. I was able to do it with my Lone Ranger, and I had went on Fiverr and Upwork and gotten a week by week project manager to help me execute the tech part of it. Yo, when I tell you my spirit was fed, it got me to get out of bed. It got me to be like, all right, I know things are still rough, but you got to show up for these students. So I set up the course to be helpful to anybody who has been like, I want to write a book, but I don't even know where to start. It feels overwhelming, right? Or I can't formulate a clear idea for what the book should be about. I just know I want to write one. Or I have the best intentions, but I can't find the time to write. Or I don't know anything about marketing my book and I don't want to be pushy about selling it. Or do I self publish or get an agent? My goal was to make sure anybody who had those pain points could take the Book Academy sessions and instantly get clarity. So, yeah, over 6 weeks, we did sessions on idea to ink. So, demystifying the publishing process, picking a path. Do you self publish or do you traditional publish? Visions to verses, how to get clear on your idea and get words on paper. Powerhouse plan, creating an amazing book proposal. Branding brilliance, so how to crack the code on a dope book design. And magnetic marketing, how to master the art of storytelling so the right people can know that your book is for them. So we did these sessions and really built this community with the cohort. And again, remember, y'all, during this time, I'm still firing my finance team, but I literally would get out of bed because I would have energy just to teach the class. And the class in the moments where I'm teaching it, and oftentimes I would go over the 90 minutes I said I would do 2 hours just because I was so energized and fed and in a different headspace as I was doing those classes. When it was over, I'd go sit on the couch and go like lay there. As the classes were happening, it was like I was being given temporary energy just to be able to feed and serve my students. And truly, as my students were sending me victory notes about, oh my gosh, Luvvie, I just wrote my first chapter. I was so grateful for the ways in which that assignment, as much as it was also feeding my spirit at a time when I was still down in the dumps. So, yeah, once that cohort ended, they were like, we need your help to write our book proposal. So, 80 of my students signed up for another program with me that was a 10-week program that helped them write their book proposals. So from 0 chapter to done with a whole book proposal that they can use in 10 weeks. So 80 students did that. So we did that through end of December. I launched a second cohort of the Book Academy on Black Friday. I said, you know what? Let me compete with everybody because I want to see if this will hold up and still rise above the noise in spite of all the different people who are also selling things. And 170 students signed up for that. We had doubled the price because I had told the first group, y'all are my beta test. So this is the cheapest it'll ever be. And sure enough, more people signed up. Hey, y'all. So let's take a quick break from the episode to talk about something that most of us deal with every single month, and that is our periods. And if you're like me, you've got too much going on to let on flow slow you down. And that's where today's sponsor comes in. Best Period. Yes, that's period with a T. I've talked about Best Period's menstrual cups when I did my Black Biz Love campaign, amplifying incredible Black businesses that I love across categories. Best Period, the menstrual cups are amazing because you insert them like tampons, but they hold all the blood. And I know for some people, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it does that. Let me tell you something right now. As somebody who uses these, they're incredible. They're incredible. And frankly, I think these could be game changing when it comes to accessibility to period products, especially in areas where women and girls don't have access to things like tampons and pads. I think this is a game changer. And overall, it's actually really comfortable. I use them. I love them. And Best Period, I especially love these. It's owned by a young Black woman. And now they've launched in over 3,000 CVS locations. You can find them there or buy them online at bestperiods.com. That's BESTPERIODT.com. And use the code Luvvie15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. All right. This is a much healthier way to handle your periods than tampons and a lot of pads. So jump into it, try it out. I'm telling you, it is worth your time. You use them with some period panties like Thinks or Salt. Game changer. Leak wear. Okay. So yeah, now that you're set for your best period, let's get back to the episode.
So, as the Book Academy is buoying me and basically saving my company's ass financially, I was still dealing with the fallout. I was still dealing with the crumbling. I was still dealing with the lack of trust in myself and how my confidence had taken a hit, how I'm still dealing with, you know, surprise expenses, firing external teams. So Book Academy was the light in the middle of the dark. It was the light for me in the middle of the dark. When the end of the year came, I was ready to run away from everything and everybody. And I just said, okay, I need to spend the holidays just recharging, maybe wallowing a little bit. My birthday is January 5th. So I tried to take the first week of the year off. By now, you have all heard the episode that I did with Fawn Weaver. I have gotten endless notes about it. And I am so heartened by how that episode has touched y'all. And I will tell you, I feel like my business rebuild started in June 2023 with my firing of everybody and then me launching the Book Academy. But I feel like my personal rebuild started in January 2024 with some catalysts in October 2023. So let me explain that. I feel like I started getting really broken apart October 2023 when I could not get out of bed. And then I read Dr. Anita Phillips' The Garden Within. And I got to a page that said, "Your pain makes sense." And I remember sobbing because what had been happening with my business, I think it was a larger thing. It was a larger symptom of just me in general needing a rebirth, a reawakening, a reconnection to my divine assignments, to my God connection. Yeah. And I think, and I've talked about this in other episodes, the ones with Tish, I talked about it, but I think oftentimes we do have to be pushed to the brink to make transformation. Because what makes you transform if you are comfortable? I had to be made really uncomfortable. So my business crumbling was part of that. So how this is related to Fawn. So I had last seen Fawn in November of 2023 at the Shonda Brown Duckett's Extraordinary Is Gala, which is for her foundation. And Fawn and Keith, her husband Keith, were like, "Hey, you and Mr. Jones, come visit us at our lake house sometime this holidays." And we were like, we might take you up on the offer. Around Christmas, I remember being like, what am I doing for my birthday? I'm about to be 39. What am I going to do? And then I was like, wait, maybe we should go to the lake house. So I hit up Fawn. I was like, are y'all going to be at the lake house around my birthday? And she was like, yeah. I was like, can we come? She was like, absolutely. Bet. So Keith and Carnell went planning what this looked like, but I just knew we were going to be there for 5 days. Now we get to the Weaver Lake House on January 2nd, and it's beautiful. And it has such peace in it. Such peace. Like I walked in there and I was like, it's like my spirit took a deep sigh. That first day, I was asleep the whole day. Like I was so exhausted. I slept the whole day. And when I finally emerged from the cocoon, Fawn was like, I knew you would sleep this whole day off. We wanted you to do that. And I was like, long story short, the 5 days we spent at the lake house with Keith and Fawn was transformative for me.
it helped reset me in a way that I was not fully expecting would happen. Like, it was basically adult summer camp. It was amazing. We ate, we talked about God. I sat basically and just listened a lot to them too, as this God-led couple who've been married for a long time. It was like marriage counseling, therapy, church, a mentorship retreat all at once. So I knew that Fawn's book was coming out. So one day her and I were just talking about it. We were standing in the kitchen of the lake house. We were talking about it. And I was like, "Oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this." And she was like, "So you're gonna be my book strategist?" And I was like, "Girl, I was not telling you all of this so I could be your book strategist. You got this." She was like, "No, you're gonna be my book strategist for when Love and Whiskey comes out in June." Mind you, this is January. I said, "I promise you I was not gonna even be talking about books." She was like, "I wasn't even gonna be talking about books either, but here we are." She said, "So I'm hiring you to run my book strategy." And I was like, "Whoa." She was like, "Yeah, duh." Throughout this 5 days at the lake house, Keith and Fawn really just took care of me and Mr. Jones, like, in so many ways. Like, it was such a gift, such a blessing to be poured into like that. So one of those days, Keith and Fawn were like, "I just want you to know that God loves you a lot." And I was like, "What you mean?" I mean, I know it, but, like, "What you mean?" She was like, "This is usually our very, very busy week of the year." And literally, she was like, it was like God told me I needed to spend time with you this week. Like, Keith was like, God told me the same thing. I was like, "Whoa." They were like, "This is not something that we always do, but we were told to do it." And it has been energizing for us too. And I was like, "Wow, not God sending his friends to go come talk to me." Yes. Beyond that, though, I would say that week reset something for me and kind of started me on a journey of reconnecting to God and recognizing what favor looks like, even when you are in the dark. Because whatever dark I was in, God kept on sending me glimmers. And that week at the lake house was a massive, it was like, "Hey, hey, hey, I'm stopping my other kids to make sure that you have room so you can hear that you are loved." And then when Fawn was like, "So I'm going to be your first concierge client for the Book Academy," it was like, "Oh, he's also blessing me in my business at the same time in a way I hadn't even thought or even created an intention for." As the year started, I now had my first Book Academy one-on-one custom client. I was starting on my second cohort of the Book Academy. I was getting messages from God in different ways of, "Hey, I never left you. Hey, I know things been rough, but the light at the other end of the tunnel is here. Hey, just trust me." All of that was happening at the same time. So I started paying more attention. I actually decided to get off social media for the whole month of January, where I did not log on Instagram, I was not on Facebook, I didn't say bye to nobody. I put up my birthday post and nobody heard from me again until February. I would go to bed and make sure I was drinking tea. I would put my phone away and read until I fell asleep. So I would read for an hour every night. And because of that, I actually ended up reading 4 books in January. 4. And one of them was called Essentialism by Greg McCowan. You might have heard of that book. Incredible. It's all about how you make sure that you double down on what you need to focus on and release everything else. And in that time, it was such a message I needed to hear because I realized I need to bet on myself by doubling down on the Book Academy. And I'm getting all the signs that this is where I need to be facing. Every sign was showing that if you focus on this, I will reward you because you will be rewarding other people in the work. You'll be helping other people's stories get out there. So the month of January, I kick it off at this divine retreat with Fawn Weaver and Keith Weaver and my husband. I get home refreshed, rejuvenated, like my spirit felt lighter than it had in a long time. And I realized my job was to pour into myself, take some time for myself as I am now about to pour into other people in this way. And because I had fired everybody, remember, I also didn't have a high overhead so I could take my feet off the gas. I didn't have the 6-figure burn rate anymore. I could literally take a deep breath and slow down. I slowed down in every way. I'm talking, I was at home on my couch most days in my sanctuary because my home feels like peace. And that in itself is a gift. I wasn't running around like, I got to make money because I got to do. Nope. I took everything off the plate, off the table, and said, my job is to heal my nervous system, heal my spirit, and get back to doing just what energizes me. Get my brain back, get my heart back, get my smile back, get my joy back. That was my mission. Because if I did that, everything else will fall into place. So my Book Academy second cohort started, and I was in an amazing space. I started doing the book strategy for Fawn's launch because we had 5 months to make this soar. So we started those in February. And then I also started hypnotherapy, which, by the way, that could be a whole other episode. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. It also game changing. It's ultimately meditations to affirm to you that you're safe, that you're good, whatever it is that you need to work on, it will work on it for you and directly get to the source. So healing season, okay? The rebuild, a big part of the rebuild was really that catalyst of healing season, of understanding that the assignment, even though business was what was really rough, that turned into a lot of personal turmoil, that really I need to heal the personal because then the business will fall into place. Because if I trust myself, if I trust God, everything else will fall into place. Because even in the turmoil, I can understand it's temporary. So, Book Academy started. I started doing this launch. And again, doubling down. I slowed down on hiring. I did hire a part time project manager to help because I realized I want to expand the Book Academy into not just the courses and not just my one on one coaching with the Fawns, but also into products. So guides on how to write books, right? And I have my marketing strategist who I work with on a project basis. 2024 has really focused on my personal healing as I've been rebuilding my company slowly. But the Book Academy is at the core of it because I know that's where I really need to face my front and really help people and push people into impact. So I've been getting back to me. I've been getting back to myself. This rebuild has really been a self rebuild, number one. So, one thing that I started doing, I started back to just reading the Bible, like reading the book of John, reading and getting centered and anchored in the word in that way. That's one of the things that I've done. Two, I have stopped engaging with anything that has not brought me energy. The moment that I feel like it is adding burden to me or making me feel heavier, I have stopped it. I've really tried to double down on obedience. And what does that mean? Even in the simple moments. So if I think about somebody or their name pops up in my head, I will send them a text message. Hey, I'm thinking about you. You good? What you up to? Hey, let's go to lunch real quick. I think even that, our lives will be made cleaner. I think half the battle that we face is not trusting where our energy is. It's not trusting where the plan is trying to take us. And it's not trusting even simple things. We spend a lot of times doubting something or procrastinating on something or questioning it. Sometimes somebody will pop up in our heads and we'll be like, oh, I'll call them later. You forget. 3 weeks later, you find out, oh my gosh, you got injured 2 weeks ago? Yeah. How many times do we say, I'll do that later? And then we don't get to it. I am trying to honor myself and God and my purpose by simply listening to my spirit, like what comes up. Like literally, when I tell you, like, even if it is just, I remember that I need to do something, I'll go write it down real quick. Or, ooh, this person keeps on coming up in my head. I will randomly call them. Or whether it's an email, like I think I'm procrastinating less. I did procrastinate on this episode, but I'm realizing that I was supposed to procrastinate on it because there are things that I'm going to tell you about that happened after I was originally supposed to get this episode out. All right. So also figure If you feel like procrastinating on something, like if for some reason it's not bringing you energy to do in the moment, that also in itself is a data point. So why it was hard for me to even record and write the rebuild episode, I think I needed to get through the summer. I actually think I needed to get through the summer and get to this moment to be able to give you a proper episode. So I honored that too. But something else that I changed, I really paused on traveling. I have been on the road for the last 12 years. And that also was part of my burnout. My body was exhausted. I was averaging 100,000 miles of travel like a year that, you would think COVID would help, but my burnout happened very quickly, even afterwards, because the world got back to being normal. I put that in quotation. And we all started running again. And I started running again. And my schedule got crazy again. And I've not been able to take a deep breath. So I actually have paused tremendously on my travel this year. I think I've only traveled 6 times, which for me is huge. By now, I've done about 25 trips. This year so far, I've only done about 6. Yeah, 5 or 6. So I've just been in my house. I've been enjoying my house, my couch, my bed. I've been enjoying summertime shy. I've been sitting in my yard. I have been just taking my time. I haven't been running for anything. I haven't, if I'm running for something, because I'm running for an appointment, I'm late, but it's fine. I've just slowed down. I have slowed the pace of life and work down. And that has been tremendously helpful for me. So the last cohort of the Book Academy ended in February. And my next cohort is going to be January 2025. So join the waitlist if you want to be a part of it, thebookacademy.com. But I've just slowed down. Typically I'm running to hire people, to make decisions. One of the other things that I've done too, I have slowed down tremendously on making decisions. So, one of the things that I needed this year was a new bookkeeper. I needed a new bookkeeper. Usually I would interview somebody and be like, "All right, cool, you fine. No red flags for real," and I'll hire them. When it was time for me to hire a new bookkeeper this year, I said, I am going to wait until this bookkeeper is shown to me as the one that's going to walk with me in this journey. Like, I'm not just going to hire anybody. I'm done with the turnover. I made the decision that I'm done with the turnover. I said, God, me and you got to talk. Listen, this turnover situation that we doing, I'm over it. I've learned my lesson. You right. I put you too far out of my business and all of my decisions. And it's showing. It is showing. So I say, you know what? Me and God had to have a real conversation. Excuse me. So can you help me pick this bookkeeper? Because I ain't got it no more. I'm gonna let you do it. So I went a month without having a bookkeeper, which means I had to pay all my company's bills. I had to make sure that I was on top of stuff. But it was important for me not to run into this decision because it has not worked when I've done that in the past.
Did y'all know that almost half of Black-led brands are discovered by word of mouth? That's why Walmart is inviting everyone to shout out Black-led products all summer. When you fall in love with a Black-led product, don't hold back. Tell your friends, family, coworkers, and even the strangers you meet. And one shout out leads to another, which creates more demand for brands that are led by Black people. So here's my shout out. I love the lip bar, especially their lipstick, the Boss Lady. It makes me feel so powerful and it makes me feel like I'm cute. So no matter what I'm doing, if I got my lip bar Boss Lady on, I'm feeling good. And I got one in every bag that I own. So discover new gems by exploring the Black and Unlimited collection at Walmart. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to find these amazing Black-led products and expand your choices today. Check that out.
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna do something different. This is the year of doing something different. The rebuild is about transforming. So transform the ways you do things. So I prayed about it. I literally was like, hey, God, help me choose. Help me find the right person. Let my helpers find me. Actually, I said that prayer. I said the prayer of let my helpers find me. Let whoever is supposed to be managing my money, let them show up in a way that is so clear that it's them that I'll be like, you know what? You come stamped. And I'm sitting in my office one day and I get a message from my marketing strategist who's worked with me for a while on project basis. And she's like, hey, are you still looking for a bookkeeper? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm at this conference and There's somebody who's been following you for a long time who's incredible at this. And she just asked me whether you're looking for a bookkeeper. And I was like, I said, I am. I'd love to talk to her. So I talked to her. She gave me great vibes. Okay. I was like, the vibes were vibing. Yes. But I was like, I'm still not going to make this quick decision. I'm going to wait. And a week later, I was talking to somebody unrelated to either person. And they brought up somebody that this person used to work with. And I said, huh, I just talked to somebody who used to work with them. I said, can you text them and see what they'll say? And she texted this person. And I was like, first of all, it's actually wild for this person's name to come up because I would never think you would even know them. Like the connection don't even make no sense. So then she texted the person and was like, hey, I have a friend who is considering this person. What would you say about them? And the person responded back to her was like, "Oh, she does a great job. Absolutely." And I was like, "Okay." And then I prayed about it again and I got another sign and I was like, "Fine. You're telling me this person's safe." Mind you, I was already interviewing 2 or 3 other people for this. But I said, "Let me do something different this time and stop running." That is my number 1 change in my rebuild season is I have stopped running. I have stopped running from self. I have stopped running from stillness. I have stopped running to make decisions. I've stopped making decisions from a place of rushing. I have stopped making decisions from a place of, will I miss out? I've said no to a bunch of invitations, to conferences, to engagements that I typically in the past would be like, oh, I'm going to go. I've said no because I'm like, am I needed there or am I needed here with myself? That has been transformative. So when I chose my new bookkeeper after a month, where typically I would have made that decision the day after, I felt good. I prayed about it. I sat in stillness with it and I made the decision in peace, not in urgency. So this personal transformation has been so relevant in my company rebuild. It has been so relevant because it has now made me so much more grounded, so much more confident, so much more assured about what I am doing in business. My personal transformation, where I am getting back connected to God, where I am getting back into my prayer life, where I am really trying to deepen my relationship with God, has gone hand in hand with my business rebuild. It has absolutely affected in the best way how I am moving currently professionally. Let me tell you why. Number 1, because I am trusting more of the divine, more about what is mine. I am no longer moving with any sense of FOMO or any sense of urgency to force anything to happen, whether it's with people, plans, things, projects. The things that are, if something doesn't go well, I'm understanding it's an instant data point to either make me pivot, make me look at what I just did and see if it's the right thing to do in the right way or in the right time, or is this a distraction that I wasn't even supposed to do at all? That's 1. 2, in this rebuild of my company and in my stillness, my decisions are more sure. So what I mean is now when I make my decisions with more clarity, I'm not doubting it, questioning it, or even really harping on it. I just move. That has shifted so much for me. And then 3, in my stillness, in the fact that I'm not jumping on a plane constantly, the fact that I'm not running for something constantly, I am finding that I'm getting more and more downloads, creative downloads than I've gotten in a long time. And actually, my problem right now is I'm having too many downloads because I'm like, oh, snap. Yo, like I'm wide open. I'm getting a lot of downloads. But then here's a piece where it is all being affirmed. Last year, I almost went bankrupt, even though I was making multiple 6 figures in months, right? This year, I have worked less. I have done less. I have probably put out less. I have traveled less and I have made more money. Let me explain. I have made more profit. So, my bookkeeper tells me after they looked at my 6 months worth of financials for 2024, they compared it to 6 months, the first 6 months of 2023. I made more money in 2023, January through June, than I made in January through June of 2024. However, I am more profitable in 2024 than I was in 2023. I have more profit, as in I have more money in the account in 2024 than I did in 2023 when I made more money purely. Get me? So, in spite of the fact that I have worked less, traveled less, been less stressed in 2024, I have more money to show for it than I did in 2023. And that is an affirmation of what this rebuild, personal and professional, has been doing. It is showing me that I am on the right path. It is showing me that oftentimes the chaos that we think is necessary for us to do the thing we need to do is actually not necessary, because in the peace is where the profit comes. When my bookkeeper said that to me, it was like another God wink of like, see that? You ain't have to be jumping on every plane to make money. You ain't have to be hiring 7 people stressing you out to make money and do the assignment that I have for you. You ain't have to be doing all that extra stuff. You can be sitting in peace and still have money coming in. Because here's how I made money this year: the Book Academy. But even besides the Book Academy, I'm doing consulting that I haven't even talked about on social media. But also within the Book Academy, I have something called power hours that I haven't even advertised publicly. Power hours are 1 hour sessions with me where I can get people quick wins. So people will come to see me if they're like, hey, I just need to really get clear on my idea. What should my book be about? I already have an editor who's interested, but get me the book idea. And in that hour, they will walk away with their idea solid. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Or I have a client who we're working through her book proposal and she's been doing multiple power hours with me. I have a client who is like, hey, my book is already out. It didn't do that well. How can I reignite it? All right, in that hour, let's talk it through. I have never advertised Power Hour and I have booked multiple clients. It is by word of mouth only that people have found out. And the word of mouth is word of mouthing. Okay. That has brought in revenue. I've had all sorts of different revenues that I haven't even talked about. Then I have one on one clients who I am doing book strategy for, like a fawn. Here's the thing: we're so used to the struggle. We're so used to the striving. We're so used to having to flail ourselves to win, that what happens when we actually receive and accept that we can win in the peace, that abundance can come to us without us having to sacrifice our peace. That's what I am learning in real time. That's what I am receiving in real time. That is what is coming to me in real time. All the ways in which I have felt that I've had to overwork, overprove, overdrive to be able to live and have the life that I want. I am learning in real time that I don't have to. That the rebuild of me and the rebuild of my business was neck and neck and parallel, because if you're like me, the type A person who's always been the responsible one, who's always had it together, who a lot has depended on, we have thought that every single thing that happens is from our output, is from how hard we work. And I'm learning that it's often not from how hard we work, it's how smart we work. It is how trusting we are of God and the universe and other people who we've put in place. It is about how clear we are of the assignment of whatever that season is and how we move with the confidence that it can actually happen and align in the way we want it to align. And I think my stillness this year has really been bringing that to the surface. I've had to really deal with what are the ways in which my own mindsets have stunted my work. What are the ways in which my own disbelief and disconnect have been obstacles to my own path? In what ways have I been an architect of my own suffering? So, yeah, when we talk about what does it look like to transform our lives, our work, ourselves, it often comes down to us figuring out, what have I been doing or thinking that has also been a self-fulfilling prophecy? So that's why in conversations with Fawn, like I feel like she transforms me in real time. Her deep belief, her unshakable belief that things will go the way she wants it to go is so wildly inspiring. So let's actually bring this back to Fawn too. So I've been doing her book strategy since January. Her book came out, Love and Whiskey came out June 18th. I have been hands on this whole time. And the book hit the New York Times bestselling list instantly, of course. But not just that, it's been on the list for the last 7 weeks. Even that is like lovey. Look at that. Look at that God collaboration. Okay. So all of these are ways in which I am changing how I'm moving personally and professionally, how I'm thinking, how I am, what I am believing is possible. And business is energizing me more than it has in a long time. Because in my stillness, I have received so many downloads of what I need to be doing, how I need to be doing it, who I need to be doing it for. And that has been so energized because instantly I've been getting clarity. When I tell you, like, I'll wake up with a pen in my hand and end up jotting down ideas for an hour, like, oh my gosh, yes, I need to do that. Yes, I've wanted to figure out how to serve those types of people. Yes, I have been trying to figure out how to make sure that I do it without burning out. Yes, 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 yes. So I've been getting countless downloads, y'all, and all of it has been incredible. So what has happened in my stillness in the Bay? One, I've helped a couple of clients hit the New York Times bestselling list this year. Two, my Book Academy students are getting fed every month because they're a part of an office hours program that I have. So every month they get a different workshop that helps them make their books happen. So shout out to the people who are in office hours. Hey, y'all. Three, I have written my next Little Troublemaker book, and that one comes out May 2025. I wrote that book like it was nothing. It flowed out of my brain. It was such like oh, the words ain't even wait. I sat down and wrote the whole Little Troublemaker book, and it's actually going to be available for pre-order shortly. So listen, that's boom there. Four, I just launched a best-selling book academy to help people whose books are coming out in the next year and a half write their whole book plan. So when it launches successfully. Because here's the thing, 96% of books sell less than 1,000 copies, which is wild. My clients, that is not going to be their story and that is not their story. Amen. Period. So if you're somebody whose book is coming out in the next year, it's a nonfiction book, and you want this book to sell, soar, and possibly get on bestselling lists, email me. We'll put the email in the show notes. We'll get you details. It's best if you're a traditionally published author because it does have an investment, but your return on investment will be high because I'm doing it. All right. I'm bringing y'all the codes. And then what else am I doing in this rebuild? What is my company doing and really focusing on? So, the Book Academy, we're going to be creating all these different products for it. That's one. There's one thing that is really exciting to me that we are now launching that I want you to know about. That if you listen to this podcast, it is absolutely for you. In this rebuild, in the spirit of honoring all the ways and all the things that are energizing to me without procrastination, am so excited because in the stillness and the obedience, one of the things that I realized I really wanted to do was be in deeper community with y'all. And you have reflected to me that you want to be in deeper community with me, especially with this season of this episode of this podcast and how it's unfolded. The messages y'all have sent me have been incredible. And here's the thing, to be a professional troublemaker, whether you listen to the podcast or read the book, and people think it's just about disrupting. I think it's number one about disrupting ourselves first. And I hope I have modeled that. I am constantly looking to grow and be better and evolve. And I think that's really what it means to be a professional troublemaker because before you can disrupt the world, you got to be willing to disrupt yourself. The room that you're in matters, but you yourself needs to be the first one to be disrupted. And I think that's really what it means to be a professional troublemaker at the core of it. That's why I wrote this book that I wrote in 2021. That's why I really wrote, and that's ultimately what I talk about on this podcast. Everything, even though it's business minded, a lot of it starts with our personal. So that's why I'm really excited. Like, I'm really excited to officially launch the Professional Troublemakers Patreon. It is a space, it's the exclusive backstage to everything I'm doing and more. And not just that, it's for anybody who is looking to do better at life, at work, and at themselves. So if you're somebody who considers yourself a growth seeker, you're somebody who's always looking to be better, This Patreon is for you. It's for the grown-ups, y'all. It's for the grown-ups, okay? If you're a fan of my work, if you followed me on social media, if you listen to this podcast, if you were excited when me and Tish were talking about doing a book club, this Patreon is for you, all right? I'm gonna be doing monthly sessions where I'm gonna be dropping gems and answering your burning questions. You'll also be getting monthly do better templates or recommendations that help me do life or work easier. I'm talking like I'll be giving you recommendations around even this like new workflow thing that I'm doing that has actually changed the way that I'm able to be productive. Stuff like that I'm going to be bringing in there. You'll also get access to content that I'm going to be keeping in a vault. Stuff that's not going to hit my social media, including and starting now. Any episode of the podcast, if you want to see the video version of it, it's only going to be in Patreon. So all the episodes of me and my guests from this season are now only available on Patreon. You can watch the video with me and Fawn. You can watch the video of me and Fisaya, me and Dr. Joy, me and Morgan. It's locked under the Patreon, and we will keep on releasing exclusive, extra, and early stuff in that Patreon. And y'all know I love me a group chat. There's going to be a members only group chat in there so we can all squad up for real. So I want to make sure we have a space where we can keep conversation going, where we can gather. It's like the water cooler conversation, but only smart people with sense. Because I'll tell you right now, the people who listen to my work, who read my work, over index in being incredibly thoughtful, really funny. They're about their life. Like them people are the people who I actually want to kick it with for real and go to dinner with. So I'm bringing everyone together in this way. I am bringing this space together. You know how I used to feel back in the blogospheres days where like folks would congregate in my comment section and be cutting up? That's what I'm building with this Patreon too. So while we are growing, while we're being better, we're going to be disrupting ourselves for the good, disrupting the world for the good. We're going to laugh while we do it. Y'all going to get all the behind the scenes stuff. And then you have dibs to anything that I'm doing. So, like, if I have any in person events, y'all will have first dibs to tickets. If I drop merch, discount codes, it is a space for professional troublemakers to come together and build a proper squad. And you know, I'm all about over delivering, so I'm probably going to be doing more. At the minimum, you will get a monthly session with me. You'll get a monthly do better template. You're going to get a group chat in there. You're going to get video podcasts, exclusive access to content that is available nowhere else. And yeah, some other surprises. So if you would like to be in deeper community with me, if you want to grow with me, if you want to do life work and you better, jump into the Professional Troublemaker Patreon. You go to patreon.com/Luvvie. Come on in, okay? It's gonna be a good time. The vibes will be immaculate, okay? That much I can promise. The vibes will be immaculate. This ain't gonna be the rest of social media where people are being trash. There's no trash people in here because trash people will not select into this. And eventually, we're gonna create a book club. Sometime in the next couple of months, there will be a book club in there. So come on in. It's only $20 a month. Look, y'all gonna get highly exclusives, all the extra stuff, all the early stuff, and then you can be in more conversation with me. Because social media often is a dumpster fire. It eats its tail. People in there will stress us out. I want this to be a sanctuary. I want it to be a homeland of humor, an area of authenticity and audacity, and a center for courage. Because my goal is that as I'm figuring out what life is throwing at me, as I'm figuring out what I need to change, what I need to improve on, or sometimes just sit in the peace and the stillness. I want to make sure that I'm passing it on. And y'all, in turn, can talk right back to me and let me know what you're going through. If you love my newsletter, this Patreon is absolutely for you. Okay. So this is amazing. I'm excited to announce this launch. I'm excited to be doing this, to see y'all in there. Because again, right now I am honoring my energy. And this brings me so much energy. This, the Book Academy, it brings me so much energy. I am so thankful and grateful for 2023. I'm grateful for the ways in which I was pushed to the brink, because without being pushed to the brink, I wouldn't have felt the need, the conviction, the coercion to change the way that I've been operating that have not served me, to understand that the survival mode that I've been in deeply, personally and professionally, are no longer mine. And that just as I'm shedding the old coat of blogger, I have to shed the old traumas and the triggers because this season, I'm about to be 40 in 5 months. This season, for me to be the happiest, most peaceful, most joyful version of myself, my traumas can't lead. My triggers can't lead. They got to take a backseat. My fears can't lead. What needs to lead is my faith. That's one. What needs to lead is my trust. What needs to lead is my confidence. And I need to do it while honoring my assignment and my purpose. And the crumbling that happened with my company was a parallel crumbling as self, but the company's crumbling forced me to face myself in a way I might not have otherwise. In this season of my podcast, when I started the season, I didn't know what to expect. I had some episode ideas, but as the season went along, I just honored what felt true to be next. And it is more vulnerable than even I realized it would be, but it's more cathartic than even I realized it would be. The ways in which I feel seen by you all reflecting your stories to me, I don't even have the words. The ways in which I can see myself growing in real time is wild. I am not who I was last year in so many ways. I think I am a deeper version of myself. I am a better version of myself for sure, a softer version of myself for sure, and definitely more aligned. There's so much I could say. There's so much I have said. This episode was really hard for me to do for some reason because I'm still in the middle of the rebuild. I'm still feeling the transformation. But one thing that I am clear about is that I am honoring what God has for me. I am honoring the assignments on my life. And I am moving with that, with the confidence that when I do that, I cannot lose, that I have nothing to fear, that I have nothing to be afraid of when I am standing fully in the truth and not the fears of what if something doesn't go right. So everything that I am doing currently, anything that you see me doing, it's because my energy's following that. When Sally Thornton said that earlier this season, that really stuck with me when she said, follow your energy and beautiful things will bloom. She's not wrong. It's so right. It's spot on. It's spot on. It's spot on. So I don't even know. The fact that the season is ending on this note is so right. I just feel like when we honor what feels right, what unfolds is right. So I received the fact that the last of these original episodes of this season of Professional Troublemaker, because there will be more coming, more seasons coming. But this season, that is about the glory and the grit of entrepreneurship. That is about my crumbling, the falling out, the building of the team, all of it coming down, me staying in bed, all of that stuff. It's a story that I'm so glad I've told. Man, so many dope, dope, dope things that I could say about this season for me. As much as y'all have been like, it's been really helpful for me, it's helped me process it. So what now? Well, in the spirit of boldness and truth and audacity, if this season has blessed you and has been of value for you in any way, I ask you to show me that by honoring some of these calls to actions. So, one, if you've loved this podcast, if you've loved my voice, if you've loved what it said and gave to you, I want you to take the time to subscribe to it on either Apple Podcast or Spotify. That way, anytime an episode drops, you don't miss it. Please do that. That's one. Two, whichever your favorite episode is, share it with one person. Whatever episode of this season has touched you most, I want you to share it with one person. Three, if you have not read my book, Professional Troublemaker, that started all of this off, please buy it today. It comes in paperback, hardback, audiobook, or ebook. Pick whichever one. You can go to professionaltroublemakerbook.com and you'll find the links for all of that. It's really important that my book continues to sell because my success really does reflect and go outward. There is a domino effect when my work does well. And again, if you love this podcast, you will love the book. So go ahead and buy that book. And honestly, it's on sale. Okay, come on. Four. Yeah. And if you love my voice and this podcast, you will also love receiving my newsletter, The Love Letter, where I talk about all things culture, business, and leadership once a week. You get it in your inbox. And the love letter, frankly speaking, objectively speaking, is one of the best newsletters out there. I'm going to say this because many people have told me this, okay? Many people have told me this. They said they don't read a lot of newsletters, but mine is the one they do not miss. So how you get it? Loveletter.com. LUVVLETTER.com. I promise you, it's so good. And I say this because I'm not lying. Y'all know I don't be lying. It's objectively really good. Another call to action. If you do listen to this podcast, if you do want to be in community with me, if you do believe that you want to do life, work, and you better, jump into my Patreon. I think you're going to really love it because you're going to be with like-minded people who are also aligned with those visions and missions. And you will get a lot of valuable information. And it's basically going to end up becoming a library of SOPs, of music that will bring you joy, of reflections that I have that I won't necessarily share everywhere else. It is a way to connect with me and other people who are also incredibly thoughtful and funny anytime you want, just for $20 a month. So patreon.com/Luvvie. I want you to join me in there. It's going to be a vibe. It already is a vibe. So yeah, Professional Troublemaker Podcast Season 5 has been a blessing to me. It has been a gift to me because it's allowed me to share with you all the valleys that are leading me to the mountaintop. So I just want to say thank you all for joining me for this season, this deeply vulnerable season. Thank you for affirming my words and for giving me continued courage to keep speaking and reaffirming to why the truth is always on time, why it's always necessary, why it is always a revolution. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for spending your money with me. Thank you for spending your energy by pushing my work forward. And my hope is that I continue to serve in a way that will energize both me and y'all. Shout out to my podcast producer, Tish Bariola. She's been incredible. Shout out to anybody who's made this podcast soar. So more to come, y'all.
If you dig what you just heard and want to make sure you don't miss another episode of Professional Troublemaker, subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. And leave a review. Let the folks know this is valuable content. You can follow me at Luvvie everywhere on social media, Luvvie. And if you love this podcast, you'll love my newsletter, The Love Letter, LUVVLETTER.com. That's where you go sign up, and it's my weekly note on all things culture, business, and leadership. Tap in all over and talk to you on the next episode.